Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series that runs from 8:30 to 9 o'clock to help small businesses. You can ask any questions in the comments, or you can use the hashtag QBATE, QBATE, on Twitter. If you need any more advice, you can join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. QuickBooks also have a dedicated COVID-19 information site. So just go to QuickBooks website, scroll down a little bit and click on the big Learn More button under the header, Support for you and your business during COVID-19. So I'm Andrew Bloch. I am the founder and a non-executive director at Frank, which is one of the leading consumer communications companies in the UK. I am also a consultant in the creative and marketing services space. And finally, I am an advisor and spokesperson to Lord Sugar. So today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about myself, my journey, how I started out in PR, the story of setting up Frank, and where I am today, right now. And then I'm looking forward to answering all of your questions. So please start getting the questions in, and once I've bored you on myself, I'll move on to your questions. So, how did I start? Well, I didn't really know what PR was, like a lot of people, and still to this day, PR is quite a hard thing to explain. I actually wanted to go into advertising, and it was something that one of my teachers at school actually said I would be good at, and I clung on to that idea. But getting into advertising was difficult. To cut a long story short, whilst I was trying to apply for graduate schemes and get onto these advertising entry places, I got offered a job at a PR agency, and I thought I would do it to fill my time. And that agency was an agency called Lynn Franks, a very, very famous agency in the 80s and 90s. It was actually the agency that Absolutely Fabulous was inspired by, and there were a lot of similarities between that show and that organisation. And I had a fantastic time there. I loved the world of PR, the pace of it, the excitement. And I stayed with the agency for a couple of years up until the point where it got acquired by a big global international agency called Ketchum, where I moved on and I looked after their sport and entertainment division, working on some really exciting clients like Puma, like Carlsberg. I was looking after their England sponsorship, their sponsorship of Liverpool, some really cool stuff. And then the former managing director of Lynn Franks, a guy called Graham Goodkind, approached me and said, "Do you fancy setting up a PR agency?" I was 26 at the time, and I loved Graham, respected him, but just didn't really feel that I had the level of experience, and I didn't feel I was ready to set up an agency. And Graham sort of quite wisely said to me something which I will always remember. He said, "You will never feel ready, and there is never a better time to do something than now." So I said yes, and that was the start of the Frank journey. We called the agency Frank because it was about being straight talking, no nonsense, down to earth, and it really reflected us as people and as our values. And we also wanted to have a bit of a play on our heritage, and Lynn Franks as being one of the best creative agencies of its era. We wanted to keep some of the magic and some of the best bits of that alive. And we started, and our first clients really were friends and family. One of the things I learned when you set up a business is those around you will really go out of their way to support you. And our first two clients was Graham's brother-in-law's had a business called Shop Fittings Direct, a fantastically exciting business that supplied shop fittings, as the name suggests, coat hangers, mannequins to high street retailers. And then a friend of mine, actually an old school friend, who had a mail order teddy bear company where you could personalise teddy bears with messages and send them through the post. And that was sort of how we got off the ground. And a few months in, we had the opportunity to pitch for the Amstrad business. We didn't actually win the pitch, but we ended up sort of begging and pleading for the chance to win the business. And I think they felt sorry for us and they gave us the business. And that was really how my relationship with Lord Sugar started, and the relationship is sort of now nearly 20 years in. So the agency was founded upon the ethos of talkability, and we believe that the best form of marketing is word of mouth and effectively getting your customers to do your best marketing for you. So we would create campaigns that had talkability right at the centre of what they do, and that ethos has remained true to this day. But obviously technology in the world has moved on, and the ways that we communicate and spread news has changed, but the principles of it haven't. And we would always try and come up with campaigns that would get people talking. And over the years, we've worked for a great array of fantastic clients, and it's always really hard to sort of pick stuff out that's memorable, because there's been so many memorable things. But, you know, over the years, been lucky enough to carry out things like the launch of Call of Duty, which was the biggest entertainment launch in the world. We made Alexander Orlov, the meerkat from Compare the Meerkat, famous. We put ads into space for Doritos. Recently, we did a fantastic campaign for Burger King where we eliminated their use of single-use plastic by melting down all their toys that you would get with their kids' meals and repurposing them into everything from plastic trays to school playgrounds. So, I mean, and so many different campaigns. We sold the agency in 2007 to an Australian marketing services group, and actually 4 years on from that sale, we had the opportunity to bring it back and get equity back as directors of the business, which was a great experience for all of us and kept us emotionally connected with the agency. And then sort of 20 years in, really the start of this year, and as part of a succession strategy for the agency, I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different. So agreed with the directors of the agency that I would remain as a non-exec, and free up my day really to do other stuff. So now I am 2 weeks into a journey as a consultant in the creative and marketing services arena, and doing quite a sort of varied range of things at the moment, because I decided that I didn't want to decide up front and communicate exactly what I was doing, but I'd wait and see what opportunities arose. So I have been helping brands find the right agencies in a world that is quite confusing for them, making sure that they're with the best people, helping agencies find clients and working them on new business development, working with celebrities and influencers to help link them up with commercial opportunities, and then some more advisory stuff. So advising businesses which have sort of largely been in the communication space, technology space, on how they can scale up, how they can grow, how they can achieve an exit. And 2 weeks in, so far, so good. So that is me, and that is my journey in, I think, under 10 minutes. So I'm going to stop talking. Well, I'm actually going to continue talking, but I'm going to now answer some of your questions, which I haven't seen before, so I don't know what you're going to ask. Said you can ask me anything, so I will answer any question that comes my way. So the first question that I have got to answer is from Chris, who has come in via the YouTube live feed. So he has said, "Good morning, Andrew." Good morning, Chris. As a medium-sized team of 55 regional agency with household name clients, we struggle to get exposure in the marketing press. And because we're not well known, we miss out on being selected for pitch lists. How can we increase our industry awareness and generate new business? Well, it's a good question. And I think, you know, from my experience of Frank, we always focused on marketing ourselves really as a way of avoiding having to pick up the phone and make those cold new business pitches, which is horrible. But the world is not short of marketing agencies. There's so many out there, and getting yourself seen and heard can be difficult. I think one of the things to focus on is what is your USP? What is your point of difference? What stands you apart from other agencies? Start to build your own channels and communicate your tone of voice and your values on those channels. Start to connect with people that you think will be interested, or you would like to be interested in your company. And then start to communicate news as it comes in. So, one of the things I've realized is getting your name out there. It doesn't have to be massive features, huge news pieces. It can be small bits of commentary. It can be 2 lines on a new account win. But just keeping yourself front of mind, and start to talk about the type of work that you want to do, have an opinion on it. And then what you'll find is the sort of people that you want to work with will start to notice you, start to listen to your opinion. So it's not an easy job, and agencies love to talk about themselves, and it can sometimes get lost in all of the noise. But if you really focus on you and what's special about you, then that's going to really help. So hopefully that answers your question. Lewis has asked a question via Facebook Messenger. Good morning, Lewis. What's it like working with Lord Sugar and Piers Morgan? Do you ever get starstruck? It's a question that I get asked a lot. I think generally, the first answer is no, I don't get starstruck. These are kind of normal people that are no different from you or me. Working with Lord Sugar, essentially what you see is what you get. He's a very direct character. He's busy. He manages a whole host of businesses very, very effectively. One of the things you sometimes don't see is a really kind and generous person. And I mean that in terms of his loyalty to staff, the way he treats people, he's incredibly fair. What I've learned over the years is to respond to his way of working, which is very quick, never to let him down, never to not answer anything, never to BS him, always be straight. And of course, over 20 years, I've made mistakes, and I've always owned up to them, and he's always been very fair. Piers Morgan, I work with less frequently, but have worked with him sort of over the years. Again, pretty much what you see is what you get. Generally, working with high-profile people, they are no different to their public personas. You just have maybe the advantage of getting to know them a bit better than what is portrayed on TV or in the media or on their socials. So, but I enjoy very much working with both of them. Nadia from Facebook Messenger. Hello, Andrew. We're a small business and have created a new food service app. We're coming up to writing our first ever press release. Do you have any tips with how to write a world-class press release? What are the best tools we can use? Well, I don't know about world-class press release, but what I would say is be direct. Media have a very short attention span. They will really judge the value of what you're saying in the headline and within the first couple of lines. Think about what you want to say, what's different about the product, what information they're going to need. And then that's what you should be communicating. Don't feel like you have to say everything in a press release. It's really just there to get across factual information, and actually don't expect people to run a story or to kind of take everything they need just from receiving a press release. What is important is to target it well to the right people, and then follow it up with a phone call to discuss it. And sometimes the email pitch that accompanies the press release is just as important as actually the press release itself. Also, just think about the media that you're communicating to and what they're going to need to see. So if it's an app, a great screenshot, potentially a video that sort of walks them through it, stuff that they can use on their website, things to sort of bring it to life and visualize it and make it jump off the page and be more more exciting, really. So, but my key thing would be direct. Just get what you want across very, very clearly, right up front in the press release, and avoid waffling. Jess Ferguson from YouTube live feed. Good morning, Jess. A few questions from me and my team. So, question one, in the current situation we're in with COVID-19, what type of stories are journalists mostly keen to publish, and what are the key trends in PR at the moment? I think, one of the misconceptions, it's a really good question, about COVID-19 is that the media only want to talk about COVID-19. They don't. They are looking for light-hearted, entertaining stories that will lift the spirits of their readers, of their listeners, of their viewers. I think things that help communicate relevance and positivity at a time where the world has completely turned upside down and changed are of value. There are things to avoid, jumping on the bandwagon, making tenuous hooks, but generally, I think, stick to what you would normally be doing and don't get too distracted by what's going on in the world. Second question, what is the most effective way to pitch an idea to a journalist? Any hints or tips? Look, I think, first of all, to be effective, you really have to understand the media. You have to understand what they want to write about, what they normally write about, what they normally feature, what they normally publish, and then tailor your stories to them. So my hints and tips would be to consume as much media as you can. The better you understand the media and the media agenda, the better you're going to be at pitching them. And then just be respectful of their time and understand the times that they're more receptive to receiving stuff, whether they prefer emails, phone calls. A lot of media, sometimes now just prefer communication over Twitter, but everyone's different. So start to get to learn the key media in your section and then tailor what you're doing to reach them at the right time for them. Question number 3 from Jess, and it's the last one from Jess. Journalists are keen to see opinion and press releases on more things than less, and we should be making the agency look busy, dynamic, and knowledgeable. Would you agree with this? Or at the moment, is there generally too much noise? What with COVID-19, everyone is having their say. I think, look, generally, I agree. Journalists have got a job to do, and that hasn't changed. I think be relevant. Never speak for the sake of speaking. I mean, it's if you put too much out there and communicate too much, then people are going to switch off when you actually do have something relevant to say. Not everyone has to comment on everything. Not every brand has to have a voice. Sometimes you just have to keep quiet, and there's not a need to speak all the time just because you have a platform. And it's something you see a lot with brands that have owned social channels. Because it's there doesn't mean it has to be used once a day, 3 times a day, 3 times a week. Speak as and when it's relevant and make that message count. So yeah, I think that's how I would answer that question. So next question, Jason, direct message on Twitter. From a marketing and PR standpoint, what kind of opportunities do you think will open up for small businesses now that lockdown restrictions are being slowly lifted? It's a really good question, and it's a question that everyone's asking at the moment. I think, we've seen the business world and the world in general sort of shift in a way that we could never have imagined. And we're all working in different ways. We're working from home, we're sort of doing lots more video meetings. And what we're seeing is different businesses adapting in different ways. I think, if you're a small business, what you have to do is look at what's going on within your business and how that's changed and adapt accordingly. And, it's difficult to answer the question without knowing what that business is, because there's clearly some businesses that have a lot more challenges than others. But hopefully what every business can see is that some positives from the way in which they've changed their operations. And, you know, I know, speaking from a frank standpoint, that there's been ways of working and things that we've been doing that actually have informed the way that we will adapt as we come out of lockdown. And I think it's important not to just accept that we've had this period of, you know, mayhem, and then once things get back to normal, to go right back to where we were 3 months ago, 4 months ago. You know, look at the learnings, look at how you've made changes, look at the positives that have come out of it, and then adapt. You don't need to go back to the exact way that you were. And I think every business can take those lessons and take positives from it. And I'm not necessarily saying you need to completely pivot your business or change it fundamentally, but certainly try and take some learnings from what's happened and use them going forward in a positive way. Okay, next question. Michael, this is a Twitter direct message. I own 3 fish and chip shops, and I'm wondering at what point to start using a PR agency or ad agency. What should I expect? I've never done any advertising before. I've just opened up in places where a lot of people live, but I'd like to take my business to the next level. It's a good question. I think, you know, look, if you've got 3 fish and chip shops, you're not nationwide. So what you don't want to be doing is creating campaigns where there's wastage. Clearly, each fish and chip shop is going to have a targeted local area. And what you need to think about is what is the most effective way to reach those people and get them to eat your fish and chips. PR is going to be difficult in a traditional sense, in that there's a small catchment area and you're going to get a lot of wastage. However, you know, using social media, performance marketing ads, targeted ads, you'll be able to get to that catchment area very easily, very effectively, without wastage. Also looking at how you can use technology and use some of the platforms like Just Eat, Deliveroo, and target via marketing on their platforms where people are already on. And then looking at sort of more local forms of advertising, even if it's sort of going back to basics a bit, and door drops, flyers. Of course, if you're planning expansion, then what you should be thinking about is your branding, so that each shop that you open, it becomes an easier and easier job, and you're not kind of starting all over again with every new shop that you open, but you've established a brand values. So what you really need to do is find the right level of expertise for the budget that you're going to want to spend, which might not be an agency. It could be a sort of small one-man band or a sort of micro agency that are going to give you the attention, potentially someone that is in the local area to you, but that's not essential by any means. And then start scaling up. And, you know, as you have more and more shops, then the spend is going to become more cost effective and you'll be able to do more and more. Oh, I feel like some fish and chips tonight now, I think. Lily from Twitter DM. Hi, Andrew. Really excited to see you on Ask the Expert. Since being a founder of Frank 20 years ago and knowing what you know now, what is the one piece of advice you'd give yourself if you could go back in time? Wow, that is a difficult question to answer. I don't know. I mean, I think running an agency is tough. It's hard work. It's relentless. I knew that when I started out, and so it was never really a surprise. I think the best piece of advice that I guess I've taught myself over time is never to get too high on the highs and too low on the lows. And, you know, the thing about running an agency is it is never easy. Even when everything is going right, something goes wrong. And that's because you're dealing with lots of factors that to a certain extent are out of your control. Lots of clients, lots of people, lots of issues. And there's some fantastic moments where you win big accounts, win pitches, win a big award. And you can't get too carried away with that because things can change pretty quickly. And equally, you can't get too down on the lows. And, however successful Frank has been over the years, there's been periods where we've lost pitches, lost great members of staff who, we really valued, really loved. And you've just got to pick yourself up and get back on with it. And I always feel that's been a really fundamental part of how we've maintained our profile and our presence and our success over a prolonged period of time. Not got too carried away with things, not got too fed up when things weren't going well. And that way you can kind of bounce back. And it's better for your mental health and just your general sort of work-life balance is not to get too obsessed with what's going on, because agency life is a roller coaster, and you need to, sorry, this sounds terrible, you need to learn to sort of ride that roller coaster, real cliche, but that to me is the key. And if I was sort of giving myself advice back in the day, I would have taught myself that from day one, so that I sort of didn't take so long to learn that as I was going along. Okay, Tammy from Twitter, direct message. Hi Andrew, how do you see the PR industry evolving and continuing to influence and affect change in the future? It's a great question. I think, the PR industry is evolving at a rapid pace, and it's unrecognisable from when I started out in it 25 or so years ago. I think now, I look at the name Frank that we chose for the agency, and being frank and open and honest is more important than it's ever been. And where PR can have a major influence is helping organisations realise that it's not just what they are communicating, it's how they behave as a company. I think the way that the world has moved is consumers expect more, they want more from organisations. They buy into companies that they respect in terms of their values. And the skill that PR has that no other discipline really has to the same extent is the power to influence and exert messaging onto an audience. So I think as the world evolves and technology evolves, consumers evolve in terms of how they buy into brands, that role as a sort of guardian for corporations and advising CEOs and top level people is going to become greater and greater. Okay, we are down to our last few minutes. That's gone very quickly, so I'm going to answer one more question. It's Dan who has put his question in on Facebook Messenger. Have you changed your business much over the years from how your clients run their businesses? Yes, I mean, we've constantly evolved our business. If you think back 20 years, the internet was in its infancy. There was no social media. Clients, weren't marketing in the same way that they were previously. So we have evolved, but the principles have always stayed the same. The ethos of talkability that I talked about earlier is exactly the same as it was, and our values haven't changed, but we've adapted and evolved to the way that the world has moved. So although the business is almost unrecognisable in terms of what we're doing, the way in which we go about it is exactly the same as it was on the first day we opened the doors. So I'm afraid that was the last question, and I can't answer any more. So I'm going to wrap up now. Any questions, you can get in touch with QuickBooks support team on Facebook. If I haven't put you off, you can also get in touch with me. You can reach me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can email me, ab@andrewbloch.co.uk. So that's the plug. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Aaron Patrick, and he is a chartered accountant, and he's the head of accountancy at Bofix. And just one final reminder that if you need any more advice, you can join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. So that is all from me. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Stay safe, and I'll hopefully speak to some of you soon.